Hi, welcome to the Revolver Fan First podcast. I'm your host, Christina Rowett, and joining me today is Billy Howerdel, the man who created the magical world of A Perfect Circle and has created a new world on his second solo album that is just as mystical and pretty awesome, dude. Yeah, you've created another musical world.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, so we always start off the show the same way because it's all about your history as a fan with who was the first artist you put on a pedestal?
Ooh, very first one. Maybe the Cars.
Yeah.
The Cars' first record was the first record I bought with my own money. You know, like 10 years old, went to the Pathmark in Cantrell, New Jersey. I'm sure you know it well.
Yeah, of course.
And it was $10. I remember walking out with it. I still remember being in the aisle, looking through, deciding what it was I was going to buy, and that was the definite choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely opened that up, and then when you do, you know, you got the vinyl and it's huge pictures, and you're looking at the rock stars inside, and go like, well, look at that dude's hair, and like he's holding a guitar just so, and you know, this is way before I entertained playing music. So just being a fan. You know?
What was your Cars song that you like got into?
I mean, because it was played. I heard that whole record probably first in its entirety, not just the hit, you know, because people had it. I remember ice skating parties out on the lake that I grew up on. It'd be blaring, you know, and it was just like, it was around.
Yeah.
But, I think, you know, Dangerous Type was one that I mean, a lot of that whole record is amazing.
Yeah.
The record's amazing.
Yay. Well, it's good. It's good to, you know, that first discovery is special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. A good one that lasted. It wasn't like, oh God, I'm so embarrassed that it was, you know, I won't name names, but, you know, like some band that just was not, you know, it's not a good first.
I'd love you to name names. You're not going.
Yeah.
Well, what would be the most embarrassing first band that just declined, that had a moment and just were like, now you're just like, damn, it would be hard to say I had a relationship with that band.
Man, from my childhood, I don't know. Geez. No, they're all good. I don't know.
No, they were all good. It's hard. It's interesting. We had Karina Round last week, and she's just like, I hate the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I just can't. And I was just like, fair play, dude. Not, you know, we can't vibe with everything. Pink Floyd. Let's talk about Pink Floyd briefly. How did you find them? You saw them live, right? And you've got a bit of a relationship with them. Yeah.
No personal relationship, but definitely as a fan. I got into Pink Floyd early. You know, they were on the radio, right? They were omnipresent when I was in my childhood. Dark Side of the Moon, like, never left the charts, right? So it was always around. So yeah, they were just the staple of giant mega rock gods that I got. Momentary Lapse of Reason, I think, was the record and tour that I saw, and it was '88. And it was just such a incredible experience being a stadium show like that with the highest end production that there was. I mean, you know, we're kind of spoiled that even if a band is like, now they might have the most killer production and it's just money. But back then, it was money, but not everyone rose to the top, and the care and the creativity and like just the culture they created was incredible, you know, visually, obviously. Like, it's not just about the music, but it was very much a symbiotic thing between their visuals and music.
Has that been a thing that's been important to you, like with A Perfect Circle and with the, you know, your new solo stuff? Yeah, like creating the visual world?
Yeah, it is. And there's more that I wish I could do sometimes with time. I've got high ambitions, but again, like even with Perfect Circle, if you left me to my worst judgment, I would probably spend all the budget that we would make. We'd come home with no money, and it'd be all, you know, video screens and just incredible thing. But luckily, I do like when bands focus on the music. And some bands, you know, can do both really well, and some bands need the visuals to bring it, you know. And I kind of toyed with that on this tour that I'm about to go on. Like, you know, okay, am I going to go, you know, kitchen sink on this, or am I going to just really have you connect to these songs? So it's a decision.
What path did you take on this on this tour? You're just gonna have it lean and strip back and
Oh yeah, I think we've been playing around with some things to bring in, and it's clubs. We're doing smaller places and small theaters, but mostly clubs. And you just kind of get what is the flavor of the day, what's the rig of the day, and how it's set up. And I hope this is happening. It is happening as of now, but she could change her mind, and I'd be fine with it if she did. But Riz, the singer from Vows, Australian band, don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
They're opening for us, and she has impeccable taste, and she's my sister, so it's like I want her to run lights, even though she's never run lights. So and she said she's down.
That's sick.
Like, I'll be that badass intrepid Australian bitch that gets off stage and puts on a jacket and goes and runs lights for the show.
Well, I think creative people often have other talents. Like apparently Chuck D from Public Enemy has a photographic memory and is a fantastic illustrator. That's just a fun fact, Billy. That's just a fun fact. Often you can lend yourself to different things. Actually, I really think one of the things I do like about the new album is it sounds like a lot of the songs sound like 2 a.m. in a goth club. And I do love 2 a.m. in a goth club, and playing it in a club would be sick. Like, it's like this dark wavy kind of. What's your relationship with underground music? Like, how did you? Because you talked about like Depeche Mode and Killing Joke and all these, The Cure, and obviously, you can hear that that's a lot of that's embedded in your psyche. How did you find underground music?
I mean, underground for me, even coming up at first, was like the Cult's first record. Like I heard that, I heard Love as a cool cover band that I felt cool, even knowing who this cover band was. Came and played my friend Mike's backyard party in high school. And I was like, whoa, like I felt special, like if I was interacting with the band. These guys were full garbed out and the whole thing. And like, to me, that was underground because their music sounded like that. It sounded like the Cult and the Church. And so that was very much in the time I was just about that. That was a point when I was like, enough's enough. I got to start playing guitar because that's too cool. Like the fact that these are knuckleheads from Staten Island that, they're killing it too.
Yeah,
we can do this, So that was sort of a taste of that. I liked. I was a huge Dead Kennedys fan, so I'd go to their punk shows, and I wasn't a huge punk fan across the board, but I really liked Dead Kennedys, like probably too much. And so the bands that would be out with them, and it wasn't always punk. It was like that scene was interesting to me. So, if it's underground, I mean, that's just the opposite of mainstream. That. There was something interesting about it. There was something interesting when something wasn't shoved down your throat, and that it might have had some prickly parts to it that needed imagination to fill in the blanks. Not all of it's like just perfectly done. And I love that. And I think there's cool things now that, I mean, you could call it that, but Cold Cave and Soft Moon are two things that come to mind that I think are great, newer bands. But I would say those are the kinds of bands that I wish I wrote down when I was a kid, that I heard something like it when I was like going to New York with a fake ID and trying to go into some cool club and go to Limelight in the 80s and go like,
dude, that would have been
awesome.
sick. You came of age in a good time for rock and roll. You've seen it, you came of age in a good time. It was
good. Yeah. And like, that's why this record, is such a, I've done things. Like Perfect Circle is like my love of guitar mixed in with all this stuff, but this is now stripping back to all this stuff, and more so, like the synths I couldn't afford when I was a kid. Like I wanted to play synth music, but there's no fucking way. That's a rich kid's game. There's no way that
guitar's accessible. You can get a guitar in just a down. That's really interesting because that's like a rationale you wouldn't have picked. How much did it form your identity, and how close do you feel to that your teenage self at this moment? Because I feel like solo stuff is like often feels like it's going back through your life. Like when people make solo albums, obviously your second or whatever, but first under your name. Is that a part of it? Like, do you feel like that was a kind of an elaborate question? There was a question in there.
No, I'm reading between the lines. Yes, it is. It's this record kind of set out to be a look at a given set of years in my, tween, early teen life, musically at least. But, those things change. Those are like, that's not to say like I'm on an assignment from someone else and it can't change. It can, but that's the North Star I was pointing at. And then along the way, you find other, dark trees to hide behind. So it's like there's in that like letter I was trying to write myself or to my kid. I got 2 kids that were of the same age at the same time I started writing this record. It was like kind of just thinking about, it really was thinking about what is it in culture that's unexplainable? Why is it that I can say to them, this record is unbelievable, and they listen to it and go, yeah, and I'm like, really? And it's because, they didn't go through a breakup during it. They didn't go on that camping trip that homeboy almost died, and like, we had this incredible experience, and all the things tethered to these experiences and the culture of the time. And it's like these things get lost, they'll be put in museums or journals or time capsules, but to truly understand what it is, for me, and not that I like to talk about lyrics, but I'll talk about the album title. That's like What Normal Was, like thinking about getting back to trying to triangulate all these things and explain to you why Bill Nelson was a cool album for me to listen to. And maybe it isn't today, but it was when I was 13, So I just think it's a conversation worth having that we always try and do.
The context of it is so interesting. Like, and especially like I think about it, like I've got younger friends and stuff who basically came of age in a different time. Like the world around us is so different. The world around us compared to like that moment and stuff is so different. And I think even like we are as people, like technology has changed the way we interact with things, the way we consume information, probably the way we listen to music, like in like massive ways. And I think, it's interesting talking about like the connection points. Like, for example, like I had an experience, not exactly when it came out, but when with like Mer De Noms and 13th Step, we had a friend who committed suicide, and we spent an entire day listening to those albums on repeat. So that those records have special significance for me. And I think we always have those moments where you can go back almost, and sometimes it's painful. So this is a new question that I've kind of brought into the show, which is, okay, anger, sorrow, joy, love. Who do you think who are you a fan of that does those emotions the best? And what do you turn to at those moments? So first of all, like anger, when you're feeling like rage or whatever, how do you soothe yourself? Who do you think does it well? And who do you seek out when that is something you're feeling?
Like musically, or you mean like in my personal?
Yeah.
I mean, I typically don't find myself rushing to create something when I'm in a state of one thing or the other. Like I just, because for me, it doesn't typically come right away. It takes a little marination process to get in and kind of like settle into the process. But sometimes I can walk past I have an upright piano in my living room, it's really old 1909 Steinway. And it's like, it's awesome. It's a little broken. It's a little out of tune, and it's very soft, and it makes for great songwriting. So, that's just kind of not very elegant, and can drop in, and my kids could be watching Curb Your Enthusiasm in the background. I'm still like, got my phone trying to record something. It's like the most, buzzkill emotional thing you could think of. But then again, going by myself and sitting in the studio, typically it's like 3 hours has passed, and holy shit, I've got this thing. And I forgot that I'm human, and I forgot that I'm sitting in a chair in front of a computer, And so I don't know that if I'm brewing with anger, I don't know that I have gone and like grabbed a piece of paper and written about it, Maybe, right. Nothing good. I don't know that anything good ever come from it. Yeah.
Who makes the best angry music, in your opinion?
Morrissey? I don't know. Maybe.
Really? He's a grump. Morrissey's a grump. Yeah.
He's a grump. He's just like, I was proud of myself. I had a one-liner. We just saw him at Cruel World Festival here in LA, which was amazing.
I heard about that. It was like Goth Christmas.
Dude, it was amazing. And all the classics, and then a really well-represented younger generation of bands that do it well. Drab Majesty, who I'm good friends with, and like, there were just so many great bands there. And but Morrissey headlined the whole thing, and which I would have put Bauhaus ahead, but it was Bauhaus.
Actually, quickly say who played, because a lot of people might not know, and I've got a bunch of friends.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There was like Bauhaus.
There's too many to list. Okay, Missing Persons, The Church, Blondie, Bauhaus, Morrissey, the KVB, Sextile, Drive Majesty. Should I go on?
Yeah, that's a lineup, man.
The English Beat, Echo and the Bunnymen couldn't get through immigration, so they had to cancel. God, The Damned.
Yeah.
You know, it was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, Morrissey, I put, was whining poetically in the moonlight. It was very beautiful. And that's what he does, right? He's good.
He does whine poetically. That's a thing. That's a real thing. It's
and I think he's a great tool for songwriting. Like if I'm ever talking to someone that's trying to write a song and stumped, just do what he does. He would just bitch about anything without any thought about rhyming or I think he just describes that he just fed the dog and fuck these hardwood floors because they stain easy. And he would sing it melodically, and next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, why am I tearing up? Because he throws like one nugget in there that's like really potent, you know?
Yeah. What was the lyrical writing process here? Like, yeah. Because obviously we know you. Yeah, obviously we know you, not necessarily as a lyricist. So it's exciting to hear this.
Singing syllables to start to make sure the mood and feel is right. I think that's pretty common. You know, I've seen many singers I've worked with that kind of have a similar approach. The music for me comes first. And so the lyrics get informed by it for the most part. I don't think I've ever really written lyrics first that got inserted on top of music. I don't know. But then, just scatting, let's say, and somewhere you're going to find did I say home again? Did I say home again in there? Like, you know, and then you might write down those words. And I've had it where I'm fully trying to speak, you know, not trying, but like singing, and you start getting full throated and you're like almost speaking in tongues, and then give it to somebody that's got some good taste and go, what do you think I'm saying? You know, I've done it with Danny Lohner. Like, he goes, dude, I don't know. And he rolls his eyes. And then the next thing you know, it's like, I don't know. It sounds like you said like catastrophe right there or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. I wasn't, but that's great. Okay. Let me put that in there. So I think that's the way to go. And then from there, once I get a few keystone words, I think it's easier to start flushing it out, and the story is going to or not present itself. You know, and it depends what's going on in your life. And I'm not in a rush to do it. I just like try and chip away at it over time. You know, I don't know about this. I don't know about this writing thing.
How did it work in a perfect circle with Maynard and stuff? How did you kind of meet? Because, you know, you play so many instruments, and how did you guys go in?
I was working on songs in my bedroom. He had heard them because we were roommates. And, you know, as he walk in the room and say, you know, whatever he said, let's go get some sushi. And by the way, that sounds cool. Okay, cool. And that was just that. You know, it's like, it was very casual, very non-committal. And then, you know, one day he made a light declaration that he wanted to, you know, I could, you know, maybe sing on some stuff. It's like, cool. Okay, no pressure, no big thing. No big meeting, no contract, you know, like that. And it was just like, okay. So I threw up The Hollow and Restless were the first two that I started with that I had pretty flushed out. And God, it's just immediately, I think those two songs, but especially The Hollow, he had cracked the code on almost instantly. It was amazing. And it's not easy, you know, like what he's singing over is the same thing that what I gave him is what he's singing over. It's like this arpeggiated guitar line that's kind of, I think most singers would go, okay, guitar player, give me a bar chord or something, you know? And obviously in Tool, he's the grand puzzle master. And so this is probably light work for him, you know? So that was the thing. I'd present him songs and he would respond in musical conversation. And sometimes in front of me and sometimes not. He'd be like, oh, I got something. Go put me, you know, let's put up a mic, and they'll track them, and then we'll go through takes, and you know, but I'm never saying, how about you know, I'm not really digging in with Maynard at all. Suggesting what he's singing about. He's on his own, you know, and melodies and stuff. Maybe we'll take some cues from the music, but for the most part, it's just he's a self-contained, powerhouse.
And I'm sure he trusts you the same way.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
He's been on the show, and he said I couldn't have solved like the lyrical puzzles if Billy didn't give me this palette to work with, this whole landscaped world, which I think is really interesting. Yeah,
and that's nice. I stay out of his lane, he stays out of mine, and but if he wants to get in my lane with suggestions, then great. But I, because I'm wearing a lot of hats in this, and that's like right now when this conversation started, my blood pressure is now down probably 40 fucking degrees or whatever it's measured in, and so, but I'm gonna go back out and then jump back in the fire because it's like I'm the president and the janitor of my company, and it's a lot.
How do you make that real? How do you pick people to like do all the parts? You can't play all the shit on stage. How do you? How do you do this? Yeah. Well,
I got like a great band put together. One of them stuck at the Canadian border, was stuck there for hours, and finally now home. So we're missing.
Yay. Like the drum orchestra you had on fucking Perfect Circle. The drum orchestra. No one's credited. The drum orchestra. The many armed beasts. The many limbed beast. Yeah.
Well, on this record, Josh Freese played 7 songs. This kid Tosh Peterson played on a song and a half, basically, and I played one. My first drum debut.
Dude,
I'm no drummer.
Which song?
Bring Honor Back Home.
Yeah, sick. Yay.
Yeah, but it needed something a little broken. I think it needed my broken touch. I didn't need any of that. I needed none of that good stuff. We got to get a little, a little sass in there, a little spice.
Did you meet a lot of these guys when you were teching?
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have met Josh. Like, Josh played with 9 Inch Nails. Am I right?
When I met him, he was with, Devo years earlier and played with a lot of bands like before I had met him. But I was working with Guns N' Roses, and he came down as I started working for Guns N' Roses, getting guitar sounds for Robin Fink from 9 Inch Nails, who got called to audition. Dude. And it was a weird phone call that he calls me up and goes, dude, I got the weirdest job audition, but I need your help. They want like really weird guitar sounds. So that was kind of my thing. I was into getting interesting sounds.
Yeah.
And so we kind of laughed about it. Like, this is so out of, coming from the 9 Inch Nails world and then thinking about Guns N' Roses, even with mad respect with Guns N' Roses, it just was so different. So we go down there. And I hit it off with Axl, and but at that time I had just gotten off the road with David Bowie as a tech.
What?
Saved up money and was really determined to make my own music. What would become Perfect Circle? That was 1996.
Yeah.
Axl, I liked him too. I liked what he had to say. It was like we just hit it off, and I go, all right, I'll come in 3 days a week, and which that turned into 4 and turned into 5 and then turned into weekends. And I was really determined to get this Chinese Democracy record done. I wanted to have it done before I left, but it just was going on. I was there for 2.5 years. Maynard's window of time opened up, and I had to make a move. So in September of '99, it looked like we played 4 shows, and we just were picking up momentum, and I had to move on. Yeah. But at that time, rewind to when I first started with GNR, Duff was on his way out.
Yeah.
And so I started playing bass for the drum auditions.
What?
It was just,
This is the greatest fun fact ever, Billy. Like, this is like this little chapter of rock history that hasn't been told, which is my favorite. Yeah.
And so I played with great drummers. There were amazing drummers came through that door. I mean, many in the teens, and we played 2 songs, and it was like we heard about this kid coming in, and Josh was a kid. I mean, he was younger. I was 26 and he was 24, I guess. I don't know. And Josh was out on tour with somebody. It was in London, and in London Heathrow Airport, there's a sushi bar in the middle of the terminal. He ate sushi and got food poisoning on the plane. So how's that for like 11-hour flight back to LA? He arrived in LAX and went straight to the studio, and green and throwing up, in between, and he killed it. He blew everyone away. It was like not even a question. So I played with Josh like 5 minutes after I met him there. But rewind to like 2 months earlier, Maynard had told me about this wise ass kid who's got punk rock hair that plays with Devo. And he goes, we got to get this kid to play. He's the shit. And it was him. So they had already been talking. And then he said, oh yeah, I know Maynard. I heard you got some music that you guys are working on, you know? So yeah, it was wild. But Josh was literally green and running to the bathroom to throw up and still killed it.
Profesh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have learned a lot about like this tribal nature of this world as a tech, I would imagine. Like you're kind of part of another world. How did you get actually? Okay, no, we're going to stay here for a second. Okay, so Mer De Noms actually had its like 22nd anniversary like 2 weeks ago. So this is like, you know, and that was a beloved thing, man. You put out something that people really loved. How did it feel kind of being, I mean, you're on the road at this point. How did it feel kind of having this, and what was it like to kind of get it out? Like this moment in time, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It really was. I have to say, there was nothing mundane about that time. It was a whirlwind. It was one thing after the next. Interview upon interview, finishing the record, making the music video, getting ready for tour, going out, opening for Nine Inch Nails, having the David Fincher video hit MTV and everybody talking about it. Nancy Berry, who ran Virgin Records, who signed us, was so incredibly passionate and creative about getting the word out. It was just like all things firing at once. And needless to say, Maynard's history with Tool, just having a notable name and history and all the work he did with that to bring it forward. It was just everything was firing at the right time. And you know, I'm proud of the record. So it was like people were responding to it. It was awesome. And
yeah, it's a moment in time.
Yeah.
And contextually, yeah, I mean, you kind of like looking back on it, it's like everyone's like, oh, this is a return to rock and roll still exists. And, you know, and new things. And the 2000s don't really get a lot of credit for having an impact. No one talks about the 2000s. They talk about the 90s. They talk about, you know, these historical times. What do you think was special about that time in music? Like, what were you really excited about?
I probably was still listening to older things, but there was two records. I always have like two records that kind of, they're the two records you put up on the shelf as the records being made, you know? And for that, it was Fiona Apple's Title, her debut record.
Dude,
and OK Computer, Radiohead's OK Computer. So those two, even if you can't hear it, were my North Star cred or legit measure sticks. You know, I just love those records. So
Fiona Apple is so underrated in terms of like, she doesn't get anything near the kind of credit. Like I remember that album. That album's sick. Like it just and she's another person who makes worlds. And I mean, obviously, OK Computer. Like you don't really need to. They have really, and I think on one of the things I like about your music, and you can always tell it's yours, is it sounds like a heavy scene in a cult movie. So much of your stuff sounds like the backing track to a heavy scene in a cult movie. Do you ever think about like the cinematic side of things and see that kind of thing? Or like, do you have a visual world in mind for like for example, the new album, or is that not something that kind of enters your path world?
I mean, I can get swept there listening back to it, but in creation, I don't think so. You know, I'm not. But there's plenty of stuff I wrote on a tour bus, especially when I was a tech. And that I, especially in Europe too, because Europe's great because the front, there's a double-decker bus, and at the front of the top, the windows are straight out. It's the only place on a bus you're looking at the same thing the driver is. And I just remember being in this freezing cold lounge, and everyone's asleep, and I'm just plugged straight into my little 4-track, into an effects processor, into a 4-track, and recording many things, and going through the Swiss Alps at sunset, or going all over the south of France to England, and so a lot of especially Mer De Noms has like a travel diary kind of attached to it for me. So there's but there's many songs I've kind of recorded many during that time, and I'm still unearthing them, like cornerstone songs.
You're still unearthing stuff you wrote then. That's sick.
Yeah.
You're a prolific human. You're a prolific songwriter. Do you make a lot of stuff?
I make a lot of little things, but don't, I don't, I'll say this. making a record, if there's 10 songs on the record, I start with 10 songs and that's it. I don't do the Rick Rubin style 35 songs and then let's pick the best 10.
Sounds horrifying and exhausting.
It is. I don't know, that maybe it'd be great and maybe one day I'll do it, but I don't. I just think like
no.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
So,
What was it?
yeah, so I have a lot of little things like in my Billy folder is, I don't know, 200, maybe there's 200 things to look through right now. And they're color coded, red is better and orange a little bit worse. And,
what was it like coming out as like putting out your own music and you were teching and stuff on the tour? Was everyone like, yeah, dude, side of stage, dude, he's come to the center of the stage and, was that
how was it with the
how was it
bands
received in the crew? Yeah. And everyone else.
Oh, no, I was on the crew. I'm not playing that for anybody. No way. No. One guy I remember I asked one guy named Nameless, one of the sound guys I toured with to listen just for like sonic advice. He's like, like I'm not going to get you're not going to get anything out of the crew guys.
It's not a thing.
Yeah. And now, but not then. Things were a little bit, I was always on best behavior because to me, it was first and foremost a job. I wasn't there to get my music heard or excel. I was there in service of the band. I'm truly a soldier in the army of the band. And that's, and I liked it. I didn't, I think one of the things that I have, which is I had limited expectations, great goals, but limited expectations. So I didn't have, I liked to think I was going to make music someday that other people would hear, but I really liked, making money, having a, job, seeing the world, being around the energy of this, people saving up money to go see a show. What could be better? It's the opposite of going, to go to court or being jury duty. Like that's what I think about. Concert, jury duty.
The opposite of jury duty. That's a good metaphor. Yeah. It's a whole thing. It's interesting. How do you like decide to do solo stuff versus a band? I imagine when you started, you wanted to do a band, but how did that kind of change where you want to, you're not starting another band, but doing something under your own name?
For this one, just the way I've always worked. It's kind of going back to Perfect Circle, same way. Like I started then making music myself because I like the technology part. So I found out I could, but also I'm not some shredder, and I never really jammed. I never really started playing guitar and started jamming with a band. So there's incredible musicians that can do it. And it's just not my thing. I don't think my best work comes from me jamming, but then again, I've never really done it, to be honest. So I do first take impressions. I might write something on keys and then on guitar, put something down and don't really belabor it, honestly. Like I just kind of go with I go until it's spark and then just don't perfect.
It's just you. So it makes sense. It has your name on it.
Yeah. The best thing about it being me is that I can act something quickly without asking somebody or hurting feelings, and even it's a part that is really cool. Like there's things in songs that I yanked that are like, I'd love for you to hear, but they didn't move the song forward. They just weren't doing it.
Was it a challenge with Maynard? Kind of, because that's a big musical relationship in your life. It'd be interesting, like how, did you clash or did you where did you align and where did you not align the most?
Mer De Noms, it was all smooth. It was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
13 Step, I think he wanted to try something different. He doesn't want to make the same record twice.
Yeah.
I don't think he would know, me being a novice, let's say I made my first record. Okay, let's see what, let's not repeat that. Maybe I would have a tendency to have repeated, not the record, but you know what I mean? Like in more of Mer De Noms Part 2 or whatever it would be. And I think Maynard wanted to give more an eclectic, a little more adventurous look at it. So you can see 13 Step is different.
It's heavy, it's heavier. you know, and, you know, you guys after that, you know, didn't, not as, I'd be interested. What's your relationship with like heavy music and metal and stuff like that? How does that figure into your fan palette and stuff?
It was the heaviest things from the beginning were things like Dead Kennedys. That's probably the first heavy things that I really liked. You know, is punk heavy? It's thin and fast and
it's thin and fast. So it's not dense. It doesn't have like layers. If you put it on in Ableton or whatever, it wouldn't have that many layers. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then getting into mid-teen years, high school, I fully, you know, I played football, I played baseball and all that stuff in wrestling. And it's like the things I listened to get hyped up in wrestling. Let's say we walked out to Judas Priest. Like that's, now we're talking like middle school, you know? And then going to, you know, AC/DC and Led Zeppelin was big, even though Led Zeppelin I consider different than heavy, you know, it's just it's different. But then getting into like, as I got in my later teens, I definitely got Ozzy Osbourne's first 2 records were the most important things musically. As like 2 records, they're interchangeable to me. Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz. Yeah. And Randy Rhoads' work is so incredibly good. And then when the tribute came out, the live record, it was just like I wanted to play that. Like that's right when I started playing music is when that came out. Yeah. When I started playing guitar. And so I did bad, you know, versions of them. And you know, there's guys now who just shred that.
Can you do an Aussie cover? Can you do an Aussie cover on the next album? Can you just do an Aussie cover?
We did an Aussie cover on the tour. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did Diary of a Madman.
Okay, I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
But it's not on the but it's not on the record. You wouldn't know. It's a deep cut, but it was something we did live.
I was like, if I missed that, I feel like I've not done my job. Like if I just like skimmed over that. Yeah.
It is on the live. We did 1 record per night and we released them live. So it's on iTunes. Or
it exists. Yeah, it exists. Yeah.
And that was just because we were going out, Maynard and I are like, okay, we're going to do, it's almost the same exact as right now. Yeah. We're going, just found footage of it too. We're going out on a club tour. No one knows us. And we've got 7 songs. You know, what are we going to do? We're going to headline a 200-seat bar. Let's do a cover and merge 2 songs together. And that'll give us 10 extra minutes. And then we'll have a set. You know, that's all it was. And you know, I wanted to put this up on the Mer De Noms anniversary, and I was looking for the footage, and it's late. And maybe I still will put, but I've got somebody from the record label had a camcorder, you know, big old thing, and it's right behind Maynard's head, and it's looking out at the crowd, kind of like this, like singing Brenya, let's say, and you just see people kind of like taking it in. It's the first time they've ever heard this music, ever. Like, and there's no recorded version of it. Yes. And that's what I feel like I'm about to embark on now. Like, you know, I don't know how many people heard songs I'm putting out. I don't know how many people are going to hear this record, and you're just kind of going and drinking it in, and it's different. It's a very different experience than somebody coming and knowing your music and just singing every word and kind of locking into it. You feed off of, and then you give more, and you know, the more the crowd gives, the more you give. Yeah. It was a wild thing, those first shows.
That's so cool that you get to go back and do that again. I guess that's why people branch out and do different stuff. You get to go back to that moment. Yeah. Like,
it's not great that you don't make any money.
It is a bit like it's deranged in some ways. Like it's deranged. Like you are starting some. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What's your relationship? Yeah. I mean, I like, but you know, dude, it's a sick album. It's like, exactly. It's lovely when you get to hear someone like do their own thing and you're like, wow, like quite frankly, I expected a lot and you delivered. So, you know, it's cool. What, actually just very excited. What is your relationship with Perfect Circle right now? Where does that fit? Like, does that have a future, or is this, I imagine this is your focus for a long time.
Yeah, it's my focus now. I can't really even think about it. I feel like we will, you know, revisit that. Yeah. In the future. I hope not as long as it was in between the last records. So, but I have things in my folder that are kind of dog-eared, mentally dog-eared to go to the next ABC record. But then again, it really is up to Maynard what he hears in the conversation, right? Like, what does I present the songs and he could be like, I hear something or I don't. I mean, there's many times he'll just be straight up, I don't have it. And there's sometimes I go, look, I think there's something here. It might be worth a second look, you know. But for the most part, he's gonna find it or not. There's a song, there's like 2 songs that he didn't latch on to early on that I was like, man, that would be so good.
Yeah.
But if he's not feeling it, it's just, it's like intimacy. It's like you cannot force it. And that's the way it is for a singer. You have to be authentic or someone's going to smell it.
Yeah. You don't even have to, and you get to be the person who says that now. Yeah, I'm feeling it. Do you feel this? I'm like, yes, Billy, actually, I do feel it. Oh, thanks, Billy. I'm glad you do, because this is great. Well, let's bring this to life. Yeah. It's kind of a fun thing. Yeah. What are the things that kind of, okay, 2 things. What made you a songwriter, and who has inspired the biggest like hard right turns in terms of what you're doing? I don't even know whether you've had hard right turns in what you're doing, but
as a songwriter, I think, not that I've tried to bite the style of, but in inspiration is Elvis Costello. I was the biggest Elvis Costello fan as a kid.
Yeah, right.
Love. The first 10 years of his, or first 8 years in particular of his career, is like, I know every word, everything about it, obsessed. And he never made the same record twice, but I didn't really take that path. I don't think I'm like so making such different records. I mean, this is a different record, but I think you could still hear it's me. I mean,
yeah, dude. Yeah. Actually, you don't take hard right. You have an unmistakable style that, quite frankly, you can't get away from, and it's good. So it's not like it sucks. I mean, that'd be problematic, but
when are you going to grow and break out of that hole?
Yeah, come on. Look, we're quite jack of this, and just what do you think people would be surprised about by this, like the process of making this album?
I think it was fast. The recording and creation process was maybe faster than I've ever had. Maybe. Well, Emotive was like a covers record, so it was like Emotive was our covers record with APC minus 2 original songs, but there was more band members involved. There was more of a democratic kind of situation going on, and so that was fast because of that, maybe. But this one was, I started the record really concentrated, even though there were sketches of things before, concentrated it in August of 19, and really was mixing by May of 2020. We started mixing right in the beginning of the pandemic. And so that just put a pin in it, obviously, once, second week of March hit, it was over. And so just kind of took my time with this guy, Matty Green, who was my kind of pick to mix the record. He, we just spread it out. Just say, okay, how about a song? How about next week? How about Thursday we mix, Free and Weightless? And I'll get back to you. It was so weird.
Free and Weightless, Weak and Powerless. Like I couldn't.
I've mixed it up at least 5 times.
Yeah.
And I've mixed it up in interviews twice now.
Is there any connection? Is there any connection between? No, it's just this. It's just words that sound like they match.
No, the word "and" is in there, and it's in the middle position. That's the connective tissue with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but Weak and Free, they don't. No, they don't. They don't even rhyme. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. Let go of it.
Yeah. Don't chase this. I've tried it.
Let it go. Yeah. What's the most personal song for you on this album?
Stars, probably.
Yeah, it's a banger. It's a good way to end it. Yeah
It's a little lift out.
What do you think your teenage self would think of it?
I'd be blown away.
Sick. I made that.
I'd be blown away. I'd be super into it. It's like if I had a time machine and went back, because it's like all the things that make me tick, that it's me now trying to revisit what that was. And there'd be no doubt this was like right up my alley. And I actually had a little bit of that get answered in the real world. This kid, Lee Kafafian, I was in a high school cover band, just the only people I played with before Perfect Circle, with this guy, Lee, bass player, singer, and Pat, drummer. And Lee wrote the songs if we played originals, but we played covers. We played the Cult and, Kate Bush or like whatever. And so we were all in the same thing. Gene Loves Jezebel, all the songs that we played, and all that rub off is, you know, probably a lot of what I became as a player. I sent him the record just like 4 days ago because we kind of reconnected. We had lost touch for many years. And hearing his response to it, and he sent me a voice message, you know, like a amazing voice message about it. And I felt like it was him tapping back into being 16, 17, and same thing as I would say. So it was the nicest little love fest, you know.
I think when we honor that part of ourselves, there's something really special about it when you kind of go, damn, like they would be proud of me. Like they would be proud that I'm doing this and like actually got to live, you know, and, you know, you're living what a lot of people have always dreamed about, but didn't get to do. You know? A lot of people, it's their dormant dream that you actually lived, which is pretty cool, dude. And okay, who, if you had a musical Mount Rushmore, who would be on it?
Robert Smith has.
Sorry, yeah, Four Faces. Yeah, it's Four Faces.
Yeah, four.
Yeah.
For all you Aussies that don't know, right?
I've messed it up. We have asked five, and quite frankly, the Americans should have known better. I know. Yeah.
We kept it more of an elite kind of situation.
Yeah.
Robert Smith's up there for me.
Why the Cure? Why did the Cure resonate with you?
I mean, I've always loved the Cure from day one, and I came online with them for Faith in 17 Seconds. So I was probably around 11 when I heard it, and but they were just out, but not too long. Japanese Whispers is one of it's top 5 favorite records, even though it's not a really record, it's a collection of B-sides. That is, and Love Cats I kind of take out of the mix because it kind of pulls me out of the mood. There's some that, you know, and I like that song, I do, but I love, like, if you listen to Japanese Whispers and then put it next to my record, you'll see a huge part of where I was coming from on this record, I think. And that's a little darker than, and I was trying to me, I feel like this record is lighter than I would normally go. I don't know. I mean, it depends on the listener, but I mean, do you find it, where do you find it on the dark light meter?
It's not sorrowful.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't like bum me out. It's like, not that dark music necessarily bums you out, but it's not, you don't sound like, for example, like, I feel like something like, I don't know what the Downward Spiral it is, but like there's, when Trent Reznor was on, and maybe this is just from the live recordings, but when you listen to that tour, the live recordings from that dude sounds like he's going through turmoil. Like he didn't have a place to go home and live. Like he was just on the road. That for me is like the perfect example of something where you can hear someone's pain and stuff. And I feel like you're in a better place than that.
Yeah.
Like emotionally, like,
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely am. I mean, I'm in a worse place right now. I'm getting ready for the tour. I'll tell you that. But look, I should be right. You want to hear my next dark record? I'd write it right now. I don't think I could have the time to jot it down though.
It's just
theremin.
So, you should integrate theremin. It's just somber theremin. Yeah.
Dude, how scary would that be? So I got Robert Smith as one.
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads.
Yeah, right.
Huge impact.
He's the guitar player you're not.
He is everything I wanted to be when I was starting, like, and he's the guitar.
Not to bum you out, not to say you're not like good, just say you're very different to like a Randy Rhoads.
No, I know, but anything that, I think there's something to be said about worshiping, because I worship that guy's playing, and not being able to get there. Imagine if I could get there. Like, I know guys that can perfectly, and then what would that be? That's not great. And so it's not great to, unless you want to, unless you have so much restraint that you're not going to go there. I like the melting pot of influence kind of approach better. I don't quite get anywhere perfectly of my heroes, you know?
You don't want to replicate it. You can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't in a truthful way. That's not coming from your place. Like, you know? Yeah.
But I think that's something to be said about, if you're a musician and listening or watching this, that say, like, you don't have to get there. You don't need to know everything about theory. You don't need to be as good as your hero. You know, everyone's got a story to tell, and we need to hear it, right? And we all need he's out there. And so, okay, Randy Rhoads, number 2. Number 3 would be oh God, musically. I mean, Susie and the Banshees is up there with like top of the crops for me, but I would say Steven Seven, that, you know, like, or I don't know, I can't even pick an instrument that I would almost favor. You know, Steven, bass player, and Susie and the Banshees, like that's.
Well, you're forming a band here. You're forming it. You've now got, you know, a band. You got like a guitarist, a bass player, a singer. You kind of need.
Oh, I need a drummer.
Yeah, maybe you do. Like this is.
Can I just say Ringo and get it over with, and just like this. I think Adam Ant would be my 4.
Dude. Yeah. You know, Maynard said Adam Ant that like Adam Ant was one of the songs that changed his life. That's a funny little parallel you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. Kings of the Wild Frontier is one of my favorite records. Yeah.
Yeah. What song do you wish you wrote?
Well, Hey Ya by Outkast, or someone else asked me this, so I have a little have some cheating ahead of time thought. The one song I'm really jealous of Maynard on, or Pussifer, is Humbling River. Is such a good song. I love it the way it is, but obviously I've done something different, and I don't listen to it and go, if I just would have got that. It's just amazing the way it is. It's so sparse and beautiful, and the message is front and center. It's paramount.
That's Karina's audition song. That was the song Karina auditioned with. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a random. That's a fun fact.
That is fun too.
We're just getting the whole world, actually, the whole Perfect Circle Pussifer world on this on this show, which is, I mean, there's that's parallels, because that's his solo project. Yeah. That's What's his take on it, actually? What's his take on this new album, just out of interest?
This one?
Yeah.
He's not going to tell me.
He's not going to. That's not fair.
He's not going to tell me that. No.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, we got one more question, which is the 5 songs that changed your life.
80s by Killing Joke.
Dude. Worth ripping off. Nirvana, worth ripping off.
Yeah. And apparently there was some other, what is it, The Damned? There was a Damned song that's very close to the, and I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
But when I heard Come As You Are, I was like, ooh. And I like that.
That's song. Awkward.
It's like, is that, you know, because I don't think people intentionally rip off a song. It's an expensive, that's a risky endeavor to go do that. That's crazy. You know, but then maybe someone was bored, or they're in their bedroom and making something, go, no one's ever going to hear this, and the next thing you know, they blow up, and then the next thing you know, like, oh my God, we got a problem. All right, 80s, what do I get, 5?
Yeah, you got 5.
I think something off Tinderbox on Susie and the Banshee Tinderbox, and I'm having even trouble picking one. This Unrest, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that song, just drums, and the song 2 and 3 are amazing on the record. You know, Swedish Chill, and so really that is a inspiration well pond for me to go tap into.
Yeah.
All right, number 3 would be again on Kings of the Wild Frontier, maybe Press Darlings, or I would say Amp Music, which is the hit on Kings of the Wild Frontier. But Amp Music is just that, when that came on, again, I was totally at that age, and I was 10 when that came out. It was so awesome and odd. The whole record is so odd. It's like Native American / pirate music done post-punk, you know, and it fit right in the cool zone, like completely. All right, number 4, maybe again, one of the things off, maybe Diary of a Madman.
Yep.
and um, Damn That River by Alice in Chains.
Dude, I'm glad you mentioned Alice in Chains. Yeah, it's important.
And I tuned my guitars to C sharp because of them, because of Jerry Cantrell. Because me learning some of those things, like, you know, them bones or something, they were down there and I felt good. I was like, I'm going to stay here. And I've never moved. I never moved until this year. I've been in C sharp since 1991. Yeah. And this tour is the first time I'm playing a standard E guitar. I've never done it. It's weird.
Wouldn't have picked, that's I like that. Jerry Cantrell's a part of your approach. They and man, some of the best harmonies that were ever done.
Oh God. And I just saw him play. My buddy Greg Pucciato from Dillinger Skid.
Dude, it's so good to see him doing that. He's so seeing him flourish after seeing him show what he's capable after it's been so beautiful. Like,
it's so, he was so good. I mean, I knew Lane. Like I'd hang out with Lane many times. I think he'd be proud. Like he's doing him proud. He sounds awesome. And actually, you want a fun fact? Are we out of fun facts, or we got one more?
Please, no. This is it. Let's make this the closing fun fact.
The whole Billy Howerdel versus Ashes Divide name change thing kind of got hatched. Well, last summer, I got a call from my manager, and he's like, "How about we revisit this?" Because I was talking about changing the name of the project because this record's quite different than Ashes, and I'm singing different enough where I think it warrants a project change, name change. For me, this record is me singing in the voice you hear right now, as opposed to me singing a character that is Ashes Divide, which is, you know, a siren high, right? And so anyway, he goes, why don't we revisit you using your name? And I go, okay, good. And I just said, yeah. And he was like, wow, that was easy. Because rewind 3 months earlier to my birthday, I went out with Jerry Cantrell, Josh Freese, and Greg Pucciato. And we were out having Thai food, and we were talking about my record. Greg had heard it. Josh obviously played on it. Jerry hadn't heard it yet. And we were talking about the benefits, pros and cons of it. And they were all like, dude, you got to do you got to use your name. And, you know, all three of them have released records under their own name. So we went out to our respective cars. I went out to my car and played Jerry 2 songs off of this record. I played him Selfish Hearts and Free and Weightless. And we went over to his car, and I heard Brighton and the amazing, what's the first single? Oh God, I can't remember now. But
no, the name is awesome too. It's terrible. Yeah,
it's not forgettable. It's an amazing song.
No.
So, and it's not Jerry's exact cup of tea, I don't think. But he was like, I got so much from playing him that music. Like I felt authentically like he was into it. And he's like, no, 100%, you got to call your name. Like, this is not even a question. You know, so it was kind of solidified that night that they were very.
Actually, related question. So he plays a ton of Alice in Chains songs on his solo tour. Would you do that, or how do you feel about doing something like that? I didn't think so.
But I'll go to play Ashes Divide songs, but they're gonna get a little. They're gonna get a little facelift and change, and a little. You know, I've got a different kind of approach to this record, so they're gonna fit into this box.
Yeah, sick.
But I'm not gonna do any songs.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah, I just thought it's interesting because he's obviously taken that approach, which is interesting. Well, yeah, dude, like, congratulations on making a cool thing. I hope I get to see it in the live realm in the future.
Dude, I hope so. Yeah, honestly, like, and it's not lost on me when I go on Spotify and see where plays are, and they're like, in number 1 is Sydney, 2 might be Santiago, and then it's Melbourne, and
really, that makes
me crazy.
Happy. We have a crazy relationship with with a band like A Perfect Circle. I think we latched on, and we're staying with you through the it's like
awesome.
Anyway, yes, thank you for your time. Thanks everyone for watching or listening. This is a Revolver Fan First podcast. Billy Howerdel has got a new album out. You should listen to it because it's out now.
In a week.
Yeah.
In a week. Week for me, time machine wise.
I am in the future. And that's
okay.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Yes. May your day, week, life be most triumphant, everyone.